Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start by giving all honor, all praise, and all glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Arachakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone that rule well. As always, peace, blessings, and salutations to all the fellow laborers of the hopeful elect that are scattered throughout the four winds of the earth. You see there's so much activity, that are occurring all over the earth. But of course, us being based here in Babylon, we focus, right here in, the main hub, so to speak. This is where the main deliverance will happen. So, you have a lot of societal issues going on, a lot of disorder, but also, we have these extreme weather patterns that are also occurring. And all these things are being done to increase, awareness, watchfulness, make sure that we're watching, making sure that, we're enduring, making sure that we're building our faith in preparation for what we're getting ready to have to face. The scriptures talk about the beginning of sorrows. It speaks of these days being compared unto birth pains. So we're in that time. As a matter of fact, let me start off with a verse. Let me go here to 2nd Ezra, 16th chapter. And I'm going to jump down to verse 37. And it says, "Behold, the plagues draw nigh and are not slack, as when a woman with child in the 9th month bringeth forth her son, with 2 or 3 hours of her birth. Great pains compass her womb, which pains, when a child cometh forth, they slack not a moment. Even so shall not the plagues be slack to come upon the earth. And the world shall mourn, and sorrow shall come upon it on every side." And that's, the times that we're heading into. We're in the beginning of sorrows. So you got a lot of activity, all right? A lot of things that are causing, anguish, calamity, mental distress, a lot of catastrophic events. So this being one of them, and they have been sounding the alarm that there's going to be, toxic air quality over the West Coast. That a lot of people are under advisory to stay in their homes because the air pollution is a deadly threat. All right. This is the article here, and matter of fact, Dabu 77, he reported on it yesterday. All right, I'm gonna play some of his clip and then I'll get the article. But this is one of the things that we see happening now. Matter of fact, hold up. Let me do this, because there's no way you can call yourself a watchman or even a prophet and not sound the alarm. You're not speaking up on these things. Jeremiah 28 and 8, and I'm gonna get it in the Amplified Bible. And this is Jeremiah speaking to a false prophet, what was his name? Hananiah. Jeremiah 28 and 8. And also, let me start at 7. This is, when our people were captive in Babylon. It says, "Nevertheless, listen now to this word which I am about to speak in your hearing and in the hearing of all the people. The prophets who were before me and before you from ancient times prophesied against many lands and against great kingdoms, of war and of disaster and of virulent disease." All right. And, every time you look up on the mainstream news, all these different news outlets, they're reporting of some new outbreak or some new disease, some new bacteria, some new super bug, some type of, a measles outbreak, something in the food. So it's all type of diseases, because this land is not it's not a pure land. It's greatly polluted. Like it tells you in Micah the 2nd chapter, this is not our rest, for it is greatly polluted, and it will destroy you with a sword destruction. The food quality is awful. The air that we breathe, the air quality is awful. The water that we drink is awful. Everything is polluted. And that's why, scriptures say it is of the Lord's mercies that we're not consumed. Because this is, it's horrible. The quality of living in this current setup is terrible. That's why in the world to come, the Lord's going to set up over it one that is profitable. And that being our Lord and Savior and the governing body that he's going to, bring in to govern, this earth. Suffering under the inhabitants, the rulers of this world, which was given into the hands of, all right, for quite some time now. So we definitely need a new heaven and a new earth. But anyway, this is what comes with the downfall of an empire. It's going to be wars. It's going to be all kind of disasters, whether it be extreme weather that brings forth these disasters, and a lot of pestilence, plagues, diseases. That all contributes to the downfall of a thriving empire. Okay, so this is one of the ones that I want to deal with. So it says thousands of Americans, is on Daily Mail, thousands of Americans under stay inside advisories as air fills with lung penetrating toxins. Okay, and so, it's risky to people that have asthma, that already have heart problems. This can actually affect you, heart, lungs, etc. Let me play Dabu's video real quick, and then we'll come back.
This is Dabu7 with the heads up here. For millions of Americans out there that are being told to stay inside, they have these advisories for toxic air going into motion. They're saying that the lungs can fill with toxins because of the situation at hand. Now, we know that there's a lot of pollution out there, but certain cities here seem to be getting impacted big time. Trying to say that no air movement in a lot of these areas is allowing these toxins to build up. But we can see across a good portion of the country, we've got this weather system in motion, bringing moisture from down over Mexico into the United States and hitting the cold air above it, which is going to create massive amounts of snow coming up this weekend, a huge storm.
And that's dangerous for these things to simultaneously occur. Well, you got this Arctic blast that's going to affect, most of the Midwest, the South, and the Southeastern region. Just imagine the moistures of that mixing in with these toxins, and I wouldn't put it past, this devil, all right, who's, and whose hand is given a mighty sword, using this technology as a weapon to, further destroy. This man is very diabolical, and we know that, on one of their objectives is to depopulate. So I wouldn't put it past these devils, taking advantage of this to make sure, more people suffer. And we know what the Bible clearly says about these people, man. Woe to them that work evil upon their beds, and when the morning is light, they practice it. They devise evil. They work, they devise mischief and work evil upon their beds when the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. They sleep not except they have done mischief. So I wouldn't put it past them, releasing these chemicals and, these different, toxic particles that they know would break down, your immune system, break down your internal organs, get people sick. So this is all, part of the warfare that we have to endure here. Like it says in Ephesians, the 6th chapter, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world and spiritual wickedness in high places. We're dealing with spirits, evil spirits, because these devils are constantly conjuring up, doing all kind of rituals and sacrifices just to bring forth their agendas. They over there in Davos, orchestrating the future of the world and how they're gonna, further imprison the world through a digital Tower of Babel. Making all these futile, evil plans. Meanwhile, over here, look what's happening. So, yeah, I wouldn't put it past these devils one bit. But this all still coincides with the times that we're in. We're in a time of the beginning of sorrows, the birth pains. So it's going to be a lot of calamity. It's going to be a lot of anguish, a lot of tribulation.
Ice, snow, and all that. So in terms of a lot of these places seeing no wind, it's kind of odd when you can see the entire country. If you go over to windy.com, you can see the entire country is pushing this wind across it. So I'm not so sure if I buy that. I know we're heavily polluted, and I know that low wind is going to play a factor here. But man, I've never seen the alert this widespread, this large scale, from California, from West Coast to East Coast. California, Oregon, Los Angeles really at the top of the list. You've got the East Coast affected as well. So in Oregon, you got a large area, including the Lapine and a lot of the national forest around that have seen AQI levels rise above 160 on Wednesday morning. Again, the pollution, the things that are in the air. Some are going to say, well, how did so much pollution get out here hovering over a national forest? They're trying to say that it's all coming from the cities, seeping out, and then with no wind, it's just sitting in some of these spots. I'm going to say that there's probably something else going on in the mix of this, adding to this, because this is an uptick that we're not used to seeing. Now, air quality levels out there are measured on a scale from 0 to 500. So 0 to 50 carries little risk. But when you get up toward the top, you have unhealthy for sensitive groups at anything between 51 and 100. But when you get up here around 101 to 150, that poses increased risk for everyone. Very unhealthy. And for 151 to 200, that absolutely impacts everyone. They say limit your outdoor activity. So, as I was just saying, the levels in this one area in Oregon reading 160, that's in the danger zone. So, you know your area a little bit better than others. AQ Air warning that there was a PM 2.5 put on Los Angeles. And that means that they are 5.2 times higher than what the WHO recommends being safe. Yeah, so.
And the Akim, brothers will be good, man. As we know it says in Psalms the 91st chapter. Let me grab it. Let me go to Psalms 91. Just for comfort's sake, because we know that the Lord's going to come through. He's going to have a divine presence. Where all His elect will be preserved through all these evils that we're seeing coming on the earth. Psalms 91:1, it says, "He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." We have heavenly security as long as we stay in the faith, stay grounded, settled, steadfast, in His wisdom, because the scriptures say also in Isaiah 33, verse 6, yeah, knowledge and wisdom shall be the stability of our times and the strength of our salvation. And the fear of the Lord is our treasure. So, the wisdom that we learn from these scriptures is going to keep us settled. Okay. So as long as we have that in our mind, in our hearts, we should be able to persevere. It says, "I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress." And basically, He's our security. My power, in Him will I trust. Like the brothers that's down in the South and in the Midwest that's getting ready to face this below freezing weather. The Lord's going to, preserve you brothers and your families. All right, even you sisters as well. Just hold tight, man, and endure it. You're gonna have a lot of wicked that's gonna be judged in the midst. People that's gonna freeze to death. It's gonna be pretty bad. All right. Continuing on, it says, "Surely He will deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noise and pestilence. He will cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day." And that's definitely in the time of war. And the ultimate arrow being the missiles when they get to being launched, which that's going to be on the day of the Lord. All right, but it also says that in Job the 5th chapter, that in the time of war, you're gonna be good. Let me get that in Job 5. Yeah, Job 5:19, it says, "He shall deliver thee in 6 troubles. Yeah, in 7 there shall no evil touch thee. In famine He shall redeem thee from death, and in war from the power of the sword." So the Lord's gonna protect His habitation. And right now, the Lord is building His tabernacle, His temple, and that's the elect, the body of Yahushua. Okay. So going back, it says, verse 6, it says, "Nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday." All right. So it's going to be a lot of terror. It's going to be a lot of destruction. Okay. It's going to be a lot of, like it says in 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter, "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein." All these people are going to get met with fierce judgment. Going back to these plagues that I'm reading about. Okay. The plagues are sent, and who is he that may drive them away? Let's go to chapter 15 real quick. 2nd Ezra 15:1, it says, "Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. Fear not the imaginations against thee. Let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee." And the beauty of that? The Lord is basically telling us, don't be troubled by people talking shit because they don't believe, because they made it very vocal. We being in the age of, social media, everybody has a platform. Everybody has, a place where they can voice their opinion and speak out and, talk shit, voice their disbelief, their lack of faith. It's beautiful because when the Lord starts to bring calamities, when he starts to really bring and turn up the heat, all that unbelief, all that, murmuring and talking and scoffing, it starts to decrease. You start to see it kind of dissolve. You don't hear it as much. The voice is not as loud when the Lord turns the heat up. So that's the beauty of that. That's why, we're not to really be troubled by it. Okay. It says, for all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. And the Lord's not going to defend any of them. Okay. It says, behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. And a lot of, these occurrences, especially like famine, all this pollution is leading to that. All these fields, these farmlands. We know what happened over the last 5 years or so when dealing with these farmlands. How a lot of the farmers have been, put out of the market. They have been forced to, dump produce, and then you've had so much pollution from, these floods. A lot of these toxic spills. All type of stuff. And it's been polluting the fields, the farmlands, your crops and vegetations, all this a weed killer that they spray on your vegetation. It's so that's why the scriptures say that we're going to eat our bread defiled among the Gentiles. But this is going to lead to more famine. Because if this type of weather continues to go on, how is your food going to be able to grow? And the stuff that do grow is not going to be pure. So continuing on, it says, for wickedness have exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and therefore it's like it, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. So the Lord said he's going to bring these things upon the earth. Okay. So going back, let's go into the article. It says thousands of Americans are at risk of breathing in dangerous toxins on both the East and West Coast, with officials warning that local air quality could cause serious health effects. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, reported on Wednesday that air quality levels had reached unhealthy levels in portions of California and Oregon, including over the city of Los Angeles, home to nearly 4 million people. The increased leaves are due to little to no wind and high atmospheric pressure, trapping pollution near ground levels. In parts of Hollywood, air quality index, AQI, readings reached 170, classified as unhealthy for all residents. Yeah, and it's all polluted because of the inhabitants, the rulers of the land. They get Isaiah 24. This man is a horrible ruler, man. This is what happens when you have a diabolical man that's in power. Let me go to the AMP on this one. Isaiah 24 and verse 4, it says, the earth dries up and crumbles away. The world dries out and crumbles away. And it tells you in the Apocrypha that the world is going to grow weaker with age. So it's been growing weaker. And then plus with all this iniquity being multiplied on it, it's just going to accelerate it. So the world is actually decaying. It's languishing, as it says. All right. It says the exalted of the people of the earth fade away. The life expectancy, your lifespan is decreasing. More people are dying at earlier rates. you know, increase of disease, heart problem, chronic illnesses. It's too much, man. Cancers, because all this pollution from the food that you eating, from the air that you breathing. So yeah, the people of the earth are fading out too. It says the earth also is polluted by its inhabitants because they have transgressed laws, especially the ones that are in power. It was that in Psalms 50 and 16, unto the wicked, what hast thou to do to declare my statutes? Thou shalt take my covenant in thy mouth, seeing thou hatest instruction. You don't keep none of the land Sabbaths. You cut down the trees. So, and the trees are supposed to be an air filtering mechanism. You're destroying all the ecosystems because you're not keeping the laws. All right. Like the brother Shaquat in this camp always say, he treats the earth like a rental car that's not in his name. It says, violated statutes and broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore, a curse devours the earth, and those who live on it suffer the punishment of their guilt. So all the world gotta suffer, man. All these different animals that gotta rely upon the ecosystem, but it's being sabotaged. So you got animals moving from, one habitation to another. Looking for, a place of comfort, looking for food, because he's destroying everything. So therefore, the inhabitants of the earth are burned under the curse of the Most High's wrath, and few people are left. So this is why there's going to be a lot of people dying at alarming rates in these final times. 2nd Ezra 16 talks about the beginning of wars, the beginning of great evils, the beginning of great death. 2nd Ezra 16 and 17, it says, woe is me, who would deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. It's to get our people to acknowledge their ways and repent. Like back when the prophets weren't a scene, they would, when the prophets would give them that warning, that urgent warning from the Most High that these evils and things are getting ready to happen, they would always ask the prophet, wherefore do the Lord pronounce all these evil things against us? For what is our iniquity? What, where are we going off? And then the prophet would proceed to tell them that where they're going off at. And our people here, man, they're wallowed in wickedness, man. The Lord has a controversy with Jake, because they're not valiant for the truth. They don't seek for the truth. There's no mercy amongst each other. All they do is murder, steal, kill, destroy amongst each other. All right, nobody wanted to speak the truth. Everybody's after bags. Everybody's selling out. There's no real, true, trustworthy leadership, because everybody's compromised. So, yeah, man, that's why you only have the prophets that are out there, leading. But we know how that's gonna go. Most of our people, they're gonna, denounce the counsel of the Most High when they hear the prophets, and they're gonna continue to go after their own evil imaginations of their wicked heart. So that's why we know that only a remnant is gonna be saved out of here. But the rest of our people that refuse to repent, let me get this. 2nd Ezra 15 and verse I'll start at 24. It says, woe to them that sin and keep not my commandments. Because our people, they find it grievous to keep the commandments. They can't even leave the pork alone. They can't even stop getting tattoos. They can't stop committing adultery. He says, saith the Lord, I will not spare them. Go your way, ye children, from the power defile not my sanctuary. For the Lord knoweth all them that sin against him, and therefore delivereth he them into death and destruction. Which is why you're going to have a lot of death. For now are the plagues come upon the whole earth, and you shall remain in them. For the Most High shall not deliver you, because you have sinned against him. So that's why we're coming into these days of sorrow, and a lot of our people, they're going to suffer. Okay? So this is basically another plague or pestilence, that, people out west, even over here, they say that some traces of it is over here in Nevada as well, but, the whole West Coast is getting jacked up. Because we know on the other side of the Babylon, on the other side of the coast, they stay getting hit with, blizzards and devastating hurricanes, tropical storms. Every coast, has its own unique pattern of catastrophe. And it's and really it goes back to the Heavenly Father himself. We always read that in Amos 3 and 6. If disaster of evil come to a city, was it not the Lord that done it? So, yeah, this is part of the plagues and pestilences here. Okay. I'm pretty sure you can see the particles on people's vehicles, on their windshields. You look at it and you be like, damn, that's what I'm breathing. It's deadly. And of course, the devil will try to spin it and say, well, because of the human activities, this is the reason why we have to usher in these climate change laws. We have to start carbon, tracing. Trace everybody's carbon footprint, which is gonna, be connected to a credit system. Which they're already doing in China and other several towns. They're gonna bring that worldwide. All right, and it's gonna be connected with your digital identity. That's the system that they are continuing to operate on. So I can see how these devils can spin this and use this, even though they can very well be involved in this whole thing. So they don't come up with solutions for problems. They create problems for their own solutions that they already prescribe. Thus, they take away your rights. Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees. They have right grievousness which they have prescribed. So that's what they do. But let's go from there. And I want to go to this Instagram account that's tracking all this seismic activity. You got all these volcanic eruptions erupting all over the world. You got all these fault lines, tectonic plate shifts, all these different earthquakes. As a matter of fact, I think there was just a little earthquake that hit Illinois recently. Let me do this. And that's very rare to have an earthquake in Illinois, of all places. It was a 3.8 magnitude that hit Tuesday morning in central Illinois. That's very rare. That is not common. Okay. So you got a 3.8 that hit in Illinois. And then you got these volcanic eruptions.
The volcano in Italy is entering a dangerous phase again. Official aviation bulletins have issued repeated alerts for Etna's activity, which usually means the system is unstable and changing fast. If tremor activity continues to rise, Etna may erupt again soon. Share this video and follow me as I track official volcano updates in real time.
All right, so let me it's a lot. Let me go back. All right, I'll go back to the page. All right, so you can see, you know, she's whoever this person is, she's tracking down all this activity, and this was also, you know, taught as a warning. All right, in the Gospels, and you'll see these patterns in the earth, and these will be indicators. So you got the Alaska Ring of Fire being active. 5.7 earthquake hits the Himalayas. And then I look at this one.
Has entered the danger zone. 264 earthquakes in 24 hours. The threat has tripled since my last video. The earthquake swarm I warned you about last week has intensified to a level we haven't seen in years. We went from 98 quakes a day to 264 quakes as of this morning, as per USGS. In seismology, this is known as seismic clustering. It occurs when the crust becomes highly saturated with pressure, leading to swarm-like behavior where hundreds of micro-quakes release energy along a specific fault plane without a single large main shock. I will keep monitoring the data every hour to give you the real-time updates. Let me know in the comments if you've seen anything strange or felt shaking.
Yeah, man, it's up, man. It's a lot of activity on this earth right now. So what time are the scriptures say to measure the times, man? What time are we in? 2 Ezra 9:1, it says, he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is very same time when the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. And he's definitely visiting. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes, and we're seeing that all this the seismic activity, man, earthquakes in diverse places, and uproars of the people in the world. Iran, hell, Switzerland, you know, they was all protesting outside of that Davos WEF meeting. It was basically yelling for Trump to take his ass back home. You know, they didn't want him there. All right, it says, and then of course you got the uproars here in the States over ICE, these anti-ICE protests. And now we're hearing about certain people are starting to defend themselves using guns now. I know how Cali people get down. They actually shooting back in California. And then I read about that ICE have been given an order to now be able to enter into people's homes without even needing a warrant. You know, so if they finna start going into, you know, homes, you know, unannounced, and they could just start just taking people out of their homes, hey, you can officially say, yeah, we're in that time of Jacob's trouble, man. Okay, nobody's safe. You can the Las Vegas Metro here, the PD here in Vegas, they're now able to help on the behalf of ICE and start detaining people as well. They can get you on a traffic stop. They pull you over because, you know, you got a bad tail light, or you made a wrong turn, or you failed to stop at this red light, and they pull you over and they demand your identification, your documentation, and they can actually basically take you. They can abduct you right then and there if you know you don't have your proper documentation. And they're already saying through the DHS that people are gonna have to start proving their citizenship. Christy Newham, I think is her name. She came out and said it. So oppression is going to be turned up as well. A lot of oppression is happening, and our people, they're going to be in misery because they don't have any comfort. We get our comfort from the scriptures. They're going to be calling out to these foreign gods that our forefathers never knew, instead of they're calling on the name of their true God, their heavenly Father, man, Yahweh. And the name of his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai. They don't know those names. And then even when because we're vocal, we're making his name known throughout the world, but some people still questioning it. You got false prophets and turncoats. That's they're trying to overthrow your faith and make you question the true names of the Father and the Son. So a lot of people's lack of faith and unbelief is going to get them destroyed out here, following after these false prophets. But continuing on, it says, therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. For like all that is made in the world have a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. That basically means, when something is manifest, that means that it's something that's clear, obvious. It's made clear, crystal clear. All right, manifest, clear or obvious to the eye or mind. Obvious, clear, plain. Okay? Apparent, evident. So you got, idiots that still say that, we're not at the end and Jacob's trouble already happened. And, you got a lot of dummies out there and they really don't know what time it is, And like it says in, was that Ezekiel? Our people always try to put off the day of the Lord. Like they don't really see the patterns. They don't see the tokens. That's because a lot of our people, they're willfully ignorant. Ezekiel 12 and 26, I'm going to read it in the NLT. Let me start at verse 24. Let me start at 23, actually, Salakia. Ezekiel 12 and 23, it says, tell the people, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I will put an end to this proverb and you will soon stop quoting it. Now give them this new proverb to replace the old one. The time has come for every prophecy to be fulfilled. There will be no more false visions, from these false prophets and flattering predictions in Israel, especially when they try to prophesy of peace and prosperity, knowing damn well, full well, that we in the midst of a decaying, falling empire. Nothing good comes out of the fall of an empire, especially when you're living within it, that empire. All right, that's why the Lord's going to have to come back and redeem us and save us out of it, because it's going to get bad. It says, for I am the Lord. If I say it, it will happen. There will be no more delays, you rebels of Israel. I will fulfill my threat of destruction in your own lifetime. For all you clowns out there that try to put off the day of the Lord, act like we got a lot more borrowed time. All right. Yeah, the Lord said, behold, I come quickly. The Lord said he's going to come like a thief in the night. Okay. And one day, 1,000 years is as one day, and one day is as 1,000 years. All right. So our time difference, our the way we deal with time is different from the heavens versus being here on earth in the physical. It says, I, the sovereign Lord, have spoken. Then this message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, the people of Israel are saying, he's talking about the distant future. And they still have this attitude to this day. His visions won't come true for a long, long time. So we're gonna be here for the long haul. So that's why you got certain guys in Israel, they're giving counsel to be settled here. We want to build schools, we want to build our own communities, we want to get land. What the hell are you doing? Scriptures say to be get you ready to the battle and be even as pilgrims upon the earth. You're not reading the prophecies. You setting your sheep up for failure. That's why the Lord warned about wolves in sheep's clothing, man. There's a lot of these guys that are ravening wolves. The hell are we talking about building in a society that's falling? This ain't our rest. Micah 2:10. But it's because a lot of these guys are comfortable and settled on a lease. They're living comfortably. They more than likely then sold out and reached they then took some type of deal. And that's why their doctrines have become, altered, adulterated. And now they're using this ministry for filthy lucre. So that's why, they'll push a doctrine that enables our people to feel settled instead of actually preparing their souls, for this trouble that's ahead. Johanna talking about he basically wanted a thug's mansion here on the shores of America. Give me 15, give black people 15% of this and give us that and we'll make he was like, dude, he's speaking out of his own vain imagination, man. That's a vain vision. It's false hope. And this is in our land to begin with. When the Lord comes to deliver us, then he's going to bring us back to our rightful land. And that's when the earth is going to be rejuvenated and we're going to be blessed. Right now, the earth is under a curse. So no matter where you reside, you're not gonna prosper, man. It says his visions won't come true for a long, long time. Therefore, tell them this is what the sovereign Lord says. No more delay. I will now do everything I have threatened. I, the sovereign Lord, have spoken. And that's reiterating what was told to prophet Habakkuk. All right. He says the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. All right. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. So all these things must come to pass. All right, including the MOTB, the mark of the beast, and which a lot of people still can't figure out. Some people believing that prophecy already happened. You're an idiot if you believe that. Because if that happened, that means mostly everything in the book of Revelation was fulfilled. And that's what those preterists, the full preterists, that's what they believe. So that means that the Lord came back down and destroyed those that received it. That means that the men who love not their lives unto death, that took a stand and didn't bow to the image of the beast and received this mark and were beheaded, that must have already happened then. Now that's falsehood. All right, that's another doctrine of the devil. If you say that it already happened, it already passed. But then you still got guys in the circumcision that's still playing games with it too. They'll mention about digital currency and CBDCs, but still won't talk about the CHIP. They'll talk about credit and debit cards in your right hand and all that. Just being disingenuous, man, and being slick and sly. But you can't fool the elect, the scriptures say the simple believeth every word. You can deceive the hearts of the simple, but you're not going to deceive the very elect. But in this day and time, your eyes got to be wide open, man. Peter gave the warning: be sober, be vigilant, because the devil, your adversary, as a roaring lion, walk about seeking whom he may devour. And Satan the devil takes no breaks. All right, constantly looking into breaking one's faith, to get you to go aside. So let's go to Matthew 24. This is the book of Matthew 24 and verse let me see what it say in the AMP. All right, so this is Matthew 24 and 4. Yahweh shall answer, be careful that no one misleads you, deceiving you and leading you into error. For many will come in my name. You know what? Let me start up at 3. When he's in the Mount of Olives. While Yahweh Shai was seated on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately and said, tell us, when will this destruction of the temple take place? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end, completion, consummation of the age? All right, the end of this beast that's currently in power. Because when this beast goes down, that's when the kingdom of Jacob is gonna be ushered in. And they was asking about that way back then, right? It says, Yahweh Shai answered, be careful that no one misleads you, deceiving you and leading you into error. Because what we read in this chapter was partially fulfilled by 70 AD. And he talks about the abomination of desolation and, the temple being in ruins and stuff like that, and Jerusalem being compassed with armies. All that happened during the siege. But then there's other parts of this as well that's speaking futuristically. So his warnings, even though they were way back then, ring true today. It's relevant today. All right. It says, for many will come in my name, misusing it and appropriating the strength of the name which belongs to me, saying, I am HaMashiach, the Messiah, the anointed, and they will mislead many. And there's a lot of demons out there like that. Some of them are in the spiritual realm. The Lord judged them, but you still got some that's still on earth today. Misleading and leading a bunch of idiots. It says, you will continually hear of wars and rumors of wars. These back and forth threats between the U.S. and the president of Iran. All right. These Latin American countries on alert after what Trump just did to Maduro, which where the hell happened to Maduro? Where the hell he at now? Why we ain't hearing a peep about him? Saw how quiet that whole thing went? What's happening in Venezuela? Now everybody's focus is elsewhere. They're talking about Greenland. They did all this hoopling and hollering, all right, all this drama and soap opera action, only for them to come up with an agreement for NATO to basically say, all right, yeah, we could reach a deal so America can control Greenland. Come on, man. They had an APEC meeting in 2018 where BB was talking about Greenland. How many years ago was that? About 8 years ago. So their eyes had been on Greenland. And that was probably already in the plans. So all of this was theater. All this talk. The people in Greenland, they protesting against America controlling it, but come on now. they all know full well that they don't have the same power that America have to be able to protect Greenland. So anyway, it says, see that you are not frightened, for those things must take place, but that is not yet the end of the age. So all these things are part of the process that's going to usher in the end, of this empire, the age of this empire, this beast. It says, for nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. And that's what we see happening right now. Okay. But all these things are merely the beginning of birth pangs, of the intolerable anguish and the time of unprecedented trouble. So this is that time spoken of, that even going back to Prophet Daniel, that the day is going to be, there's going to be no other day like it. That even Michael the archangel is going to have to stand up for the people. So we're going to have to need divine intervention during this period. Okay, and Michael, he has a command over the other angels, and Yahushua has command over him. See, Yahushua is he's the angel of angels. All right, he's over all the other angels, and he gets worshipped by the angels. All right, but under Michael, the angels are gonna have to come down and protect the Lord's elect, those that basically have that seal. Okay, which is a spiritual seal, not the mark that the beast is going to implant people with, but a spiritual mark. And that's going to be a distinguishing mark that the angels are going to know when they come down to have to protect. All right, just like the blood on the doorposts when we were in Egypt. If you had that blood of the lamb, plastered on your doorposts, that death angel, which was the destroyer, it passed over your house. Okay, so if you have that seal, the plagues, the many forms of judgment and deaths is gonna pass by you. All right, because the Lord, unto him belong the issues from death. Verse 9, it says, then they will hand you over to endure tribulation, and will put you to death, and you will be hated by all nations because of my name. And at that time, many will be offended and repelled by their association with me, and will fall away. And, during that time, under the ancient Roman Empire, it was heavy persecution of those that follow Yahushua, that believed on the gospel. It was happening throughout the time of the Acts of the Apostles. Different governors and kings that would put in hell on the Christians. All right, which were believers of the anointed, because you had to basically follow the customs of Rome. Now, if you was under in Jerusalem and in Judea, you was able to have your own sacred worship and follow the customs, but you still had to pay tribute to the king, pay taxes. And then when these uproars would happen, because you had people that didn't believe versus those that did, and it would cause all type of ruckuses. So persecution was done. It was scourging brothers in the synagogues and under the Sanhedrin, getting them imprisoned, under the Roman system. It was crazy. So these things were going to occur, and guess what? There's no new thing under the sun. It says many false prophets will appear and mislead many. It's a lot, and there's way more false prophets than there are true prophets, which is why the way to salvation is very straight and narrow. Okay. It says because lawlessness is increased, the love of most will grow cold. And we're in that time as well. I'm pretty sure it happened back then, and it's happening today for sure. And nobody has reasoning skills. Nobody wants to solve problems, issues. Nobody has reason. People don't act on logic anymore. They're just reactionary, impulsive. So that's why people are dying for the most ridiculous, reasons. Okay. Because we're in a time of lawlessness. And the man of sin, who is a lawless man, he's in power. All right. So the love of most people will grow cold, but the one who endures and bears up under suffering to the end will be saved. This good news of the kingdom of the gospel will be preached throughout the whole world as a testimony to all the nations, and then the end of the age will come. All right. And, this word, this ministry has reached the entire world, which is why there's different brothers and sisters around the world that believe. There's various camps all around the world because this word has gone out. So that's why we're seeing all this activity, because the Lord he's going to speed everything up. Okay. So, let me see. Let me read verses 21 through 24, because this is relevant to today as well. Matthew 24 and 21, and it says, for at that time there will be a great trip. Matter of fact, let me start at 20, because even though this applies to what took place in 70 AD, the Lord was given a warning, 3 decades before. It's like your 4 decades before it actually occurred. He said, pray that your flight from persecution and suffering will not be in winter. And this is a cold ass winter, especially with this Arctic blast that's getting ready to come down. So if ice try to operate out there and fuck with people, they might end up becoming ice. But, if you being persecuted and they, dragging you out of your home, with no clothes on in the middle of the night, and it's freaking icy outside, that's horrible. That's terrible. All right. That's a painful type kind of cold. Frost bites and shit. It says, or on a Sabbath when Jewish laws prohibit travel. For at that time there will be great tribulation, pressure, distress, oppression, such as has not occurred since the beginning of the world until now, nor ever will again. And if those days of tribulation had not been cut short, no human life would be saved. This is why the Lord is speeding everything up. And we want this thing to speed up so we can hurry up and be delivered up out of here, man. We done with this place. Lord willing, the Lord can bring us up out of here the end of this year, beginning of next year, whenever, man. And we know not the day or the hour. We don't know the day or the time, but we're hasting the coming of the Lord, man, because this is, it's at times, it gets unbearable. But that's why we have these scriptures for our comfort. It says, but for the sake of the elect, God's chosen ones, those days will be shortened. Then if anyone says to you during the great tribulation, look, here is the anointed, or there he is, do not believe it. For false anointeds and false prophets will appear, and they will provide great signs and wonders so as to deceive, if possible, even the elect, God's chosen ones. And the elect are not going to be they're not going to be deceived, because they're going to have that discernment. Okay. We know that Esau has the technology to fake and stage a second coming. And they've been talking about that for ages. And now they have their technology mastered, where they can use Project Blue Beam and stage a second coming. Okay. They can make it look real surreal, but we know this is all part of the left hand, because Paul warned in 2 Thessalonians that his coming will be after the workings of Shaitan, coming with all power, signs, and lying wonders. But we're not going to be deceived by it, because we know what the prophecies say, how the Lord's going to come. All right. He come up in that ship, in all the hosts of heaven, and we see a so-called black man that he's looking real fierce in his countenance and in his glory, man, tearing shit down, blazing shit. That's when we're gonna know. But we know that the Lord's not gonna come before the mark of the beast is issued. Before brothers, certain brothers get martyred and beheaded for the witness of the Lord. Okay, all these things must first come to pass. So, I just want to cover these latest events, because you're seeing all this activity simultaneously being done. Pestilences, all right, extreme weather, earthquakes in diverse places, uproars all over the world, all over the country, financial hardship, poverty, depression. But it's still a bit of a level of comfort here in Babylon too, because they still got entertainment, they still got bread and circuses, they got access to food, water, you still got running water. But we're in the beginning of sorrows. So there's going to be more evils that's going to come. Just stay tuned and buckle up. All right. And like I said in my one of my previous lessons, prayers is going to be going up for you brothers and you sisters that are in these areas that's going to be affected by this Arctic blast. The extreme cold, icy weather. You brothers and sisters up in the Midwest, down in the South, Southeast, even over to the East Coast. May the Lord, Yahweh Shemel Shai, be with you and cover you all. So anyway, with that, I'm going to give all honor, all praise, and glory to Yahweh Shemel Shai. And until the next lesson, Shalom.